Round 6 here in Liverpool, and I'm very excited to say we're going to be seeing a new deck on stream. My name is Mike, and I'm here joined by Marco. Tell us what we're about to witness.
We're about to witness a very interesting matchup. I think a bit tilted toward one side or over the other. That is Arceus Duraludon against Lugia Vista.
So this is important, guys. You guys in chat request things. We will try and make it happen. Someone in chat was like, I want to see some Duraludon. That's my generic chat impression.
That's the generic chat.
And I was like, I want to see Duraludon too. So we've got you a 5-0 table with Duraludon on.
Indeed.
And so hopefully you guys will be pleased to see it, because we have had quite a lot of Lugia V-Star and Lost Box here on the mainstream.
Indeed. And piloting Arceus Duraludon, no one else but Zapdos TCG himself.
Joshua, his name is, right?
Yeah, Joshua. So I will not try to pronounce his surname.
Yeah, his surname is a tough one for us, but we are here in round 6, and we'll be seeing him on stage. You see there,
there he is.
The famous, I don't know what kind of jacket you call that.
His signature look.
Yeah, there's a lot of Zapdos everywhere there.
Even his hair is like Zapdosi, I would say. It's very electric.
That is pushing it. I think that's probably the last element of his look that I would go towards Zapdosy.
Yeah.
But on the other side, we have Luke Fisher and piloting Lugia V-Star. You know, the best deck in format currently, but it has got a massive target on its back from decks like Arceus Duraludon who are trying to counter it.
Heading into this tournament, I would expect Lugia to fall just a bit, maybe a 5%, maybe even less than a 5% in popularity, but it feels like we have featured this so much, and just looking at the list of people that are doing well right now, it's just such a consistent deck. Like, it just has so many possibilities. But interesting enough, this 2-deck list, the Duraludon is a pretty standard Duraludon list. It does play 4 Colors Experiment, so it's going for sort of the card advantage build. It also interested one of Karen's Conviction, which is the supported that lets you do 20 more damage for each prize card that the opponent has taken.
I'm surprised we haven't seen that before, because now I read that, I'm like, actually, that's quite good.
Indeed. And
so what could that get to? So you could get five prizes taken, you'd have 1 prize left, or let's say it's like,
yeah, it's
so
definitely
it'd be like 80 or 100 more damage.
Yeah, for the surprise effect. Once again, Duraludon does 220 damage, null effect goes through anything, and once again the Skyscraper ability, which I think is going to be very key in this matchup because their sales list does not play any Cancelling Cologne.
So Karen's Conviction plus a Choice Belt, you can pretty much knock out anything.
Yeah, I think that's 220 plus 30. It doesn't run actually any Choice Belt. I think he just said, well, I'm just going to run the Karen's Conviction.
And I guess the big Parasol's way more important right now, and that's because the Yveltal, which we commonly see in Lugia V-Star, is the main answer to take out the Duraludon because of that special energy blocking ability. Skyscraper makes it very tricky for Lugia V-Star.
Exactly. And Skyscraper, once again, prevents only the damage. That means that Yveltal can go under it. And in fact, rather than playing Cancelling Cologne, the Lugia list plays 2 Tool Gemma. In fact, for protecting, this possibility. Therefore, yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty even matchup here. Maybe I would say it's 60-40. But we're about to see. We're about the setup is very important. The Arceus Duraludon deck needs to get that Arceus into play, set up the Duraludon, and sometimes things can go wrong there.
Yeah, and there's a Lost City stadium. There's so many stadiums that Arceus Duraludon can play. There's the Crystal Cave for the healing.
3 copies of Lost City being featured in the Arceus Duraludon.
Very spicy. So we'll be seeing the start kicking off here soon. Both players have their actives ready. And let's see what they start off with.
Pumpkaboo.
Okay, Pumpkaboo, obviously not the optimal start.
No.
Stoutland in the prizes, not too relevant in this matchup. There is a Duraludon,
but it's a Chew-free line, which I think we've seen quite a lot. It's because that way, for people that are not sure why it's running Chew-free, it's because you have Mustard as well in your deck. So you want actually to be able to discard the Duraludon and maybe get it back using a single strike Mustard. Yeah, so it's a 4-2 line with the Arceus and then a 2-3 line with the Duraludon. Then it also sort of signifies how important it is to get the VMAX at the right time for the Duraludon. You really don't want your Duraludon V to be hanging about too long. It's just going to be a target before you get that Skyscraper ability on board once it's evolved. For sure. So yeah, Joshua right here, going for an Ultra Ball, grabbing a Duraludon. Obviously, you want both of the Arceus and Duraludon on turn 1 down because you want to evolve them as soon as possible. Instead, Luke's starting with a Pumpkaboo. I'm not sure if I'm happy if I were him.
It is genuinely the worst starter in Lugia V-Star.
It literally is.
And like the people always think about Pumpkaboo, and like on first glance, you assume it's going to be a lower retreat cost than it is, but it's 2 retreat costs. So you do have to use a double turbo energy or attach 2 energy to retreat out the active, as commonly we all know. There is a lack of switch outs for Lugia. Only really the Bird Keeper now as a counter to the Articuno that came, and Paralysis in general that came quite popular in the middle of this format. But yeah,
Absolutely.
Lugia V-Star, not the best start with a Pumpkaboo, but we'll see where it goes from there.
No attachment, interesting enough, by Joshua. This means that we may not see an Arceus V-Star attack on turn 2. But maybe what he wants to do is just leave the Arceus V there, attach a double turbo, and then just charge the Duraludon if he's able to evolve it. But once again, evolving and then going Star Birth with the Arceus V-Star is just so powerful.
So there's a few little bit of interesting text back and forth here. So we mentioned Big Parasol. An amazing card to stop the Yveltal from using its attack. Amazing destruction that can knock out a Pokemon. Doesn't count as damage. It guarantees a knockout even though there's special energy on the Yveltal. Big Parasol stops that effect. But what we see in the Lugia V-Star list is 2 Tool Jammers. So a way to counter that, a Tool Jammer on the Yveltal will allow you to get through that Big Parasol. So there's a little bit of back and forth going on here. Then, of course, Yveltal might need to take multiple knockouts, and that's where that Lost City comes in, guaranteeing that Yveltal is never seen again. There's no recovery in this list, but it's one of those, just make sure Joshua feels comfortable. Everyone's playing all sorts of little one-offs here in their Lugia
Lost City,
lists.
one of those cards that went under the radar when it came out in Lost Origin, but right now resurged in popularity due to both the Regigigas being always a threat in the metagame or for any particular text that people can loop, for example, in Lost Box decks. But yeah, right now we just have pretty standard setup. There's an Evolution Instance grabbing an Archeops. And let's see what he wants to go for here. I think there's going to be an Ultra Ball right now. Yep, and that's, wow, there we go. That's the 2 Archeops already.
Well, that's always a good start you want to see as a Lugia player. By going second, though, will be a turn behind in terms of getting things going, but as we mentioned, no attachment for Joshua, so there could be a little bit of back and forth for a bit while both sides set up. The Duraludon much happier once it's set up, though, because it feels more comfortable with the walling potential of a big parasoled up Duraludon VMAX.
Indeed, indeed. And right now, looking at Joshua's hand, he has an Arceus V-Star, an Escape Rope, I think I see a Pokegear and a Hyper Potion. Therefore, he will be forced next turn to evolve into the Arceus V-Star and then grabbing some more resources.
I'm a big fan of Pokegear. I don't think it gets enough love. I think because of the fact supporters right now, we are able to play so many of them that are useful. Decks will have multiple research, multiple Marnie, multiple bosses orders, and in Chorus Experiments still in a lot of decks. So in those cases, you don't necessarily need that extra search. Exactly. But I used to be a Welder player back when Welder was everywhere. Yeah, I was one of those. And so having Pokegear access to those Welders was always a fun little count, which you had to work out what gives you that extra consistency. And we did mention a few very particular cards in this Duraludon Arceus list that are quite tricky to find, in particular the 2 one-offs that have the Duraludon Synergy in the Single Strike Mustard and
Karen's Conviction.
Yeah. So they can be quite hard to pull out at the right time.
Exactly. So Pokegear is one of those cards that some people look at and they're like, well, this card can fail. Yeah. Therefore, it's not such a good card. I somewhat agree to that. But in the moment that you want to run, Duraludon as itself is a very static deck. It's a deck that once you've set up, you're just going to tank. You're just going to have that Duraludon hit every turn. In the meantime, charge another Duraludon in the bench. And then the game will just go on, and hopefully Duraludon will carry throughout. But it's a very static deck. Sometimes you need a boss holder. Sometimes you need the money. And Pokegear is sort of that, that help. If you discard it, not so much of a tragedy.
Yeah. And that's the other thing as well, is in decks where the supporter is key to get out every single turn, it just sort of helps guarantee that. But yeah, the Dig 7 is always a risky card to play because it can just fail. Speaking of just failing, we missed the attachment in the first turn, so we've got to see a slightly different style of turn here for Joshua. It does start off with the Pokegear.
All right, Pokegear, don't fail me. I just defended you. There's a boss over there. I don't think that's what he wants.
Yeah, wants to be digging a bit deeper here to try and find energy. There is a double turbo energy, so we will see some acceleration from the Arceus with the Trinity Charge.
Yeah, in that case, he will not be able to attach, and this may open him to a knockout turn too. Obviously, depends what the Lugia player has in hand. He just discarded a lot of the cards in hand, so maybe he's setting himself up for a Professor Research. But yeah, now I think Joshua needs to take a decision.
It's really interesting because he's got that Arceus V-Star there, which will allow him to Star Portal and find anything he wants. So if there's something... Oh, Star Birth, sorry. Star Portal is Palkia. But yeah, to have that Star Birth, which allows you to find any card you want. And that's exactly what he's looking for. And he wants to find any card he wants. But
Yep.
by doing that, he now has no access to the energy
Indeed.
acceleration, which he also wants. So sort of stuck between what's more important, getting set up with the Duraludon VMAX or getting energy on the Duraludon
Yeah,
V.
sometimes you can get blown away by not being able to set up your Duraludon and just going to pass turn and turn and turn, giving the opportunity to your opponent to get back in the game. I think, yeah, I think he went for a single strike Mustard. If I remember the art correctly, there's an Ultra Ball. He's going to discard some cards. Boss Order and High Proportion cards that he can't play. He does have an Escape Rope, so I think his play is going to be attach a DC, Escape Rope, and then probably single strike Master. Let's see what he wants to go for.
Interesting. Okay. Yep. I mean, this is why the deck has got the 3 Duraludon VMAXs and why we love seeing this single strike Mustard. A card that, when it's printed, I think a lot of people thought, probably
There
not
it
possible,
is.
probably not worth it, but there it is. Single strike Mustard, an amazing card to synergize with these big VMAXs that can be quite hard to get in play. And it's not all bad. You don't just get them in play and remove all cards from your hand. You get an extra 5 to draw.
Exactly. So it's like one card that is not all in. You also get those 5 cards to then fill your hand. Therefore, having 2 Duraludons is actually very important. While it opens the possibility to being get knocked out for 6 prizes, obviously you want that Arceus to get knocked out first, which I think is what Josh is going to go for here. Obviously, putting right away the Duraludon on the active can be risky. If the opponent is able to set up an Yveltal right away, this may get really ugly.
Yeah, because you want to be able to get that that knockout back, which the Arceus is available. So that I think this is a reasonable setup. I think the ultimate goal here is to wall out with a single Duraludon. There is no Echoing Horn or anything to worry about like that. It is just going to be a single Duraludon VMAX swinging for 220 for the rest of the game, saying you can't hit me back.
Yeah, let us reiterate once again that Duraludon VMAX has the Skyscraper ability, so therefore if any Pokemon that wants to hit it as any special energy attack, he says no thank you. And would you look at that, Lugia V-Star plays only special energies. And once again, all the tension in this in this matchup is from the Yveltal Amazing Destruction.
So there's been a few different strategies around that we've seen over Lugia V-Star's history. There was some people playing 2 Yveltals at one point, and that starts to bring in the need for more of the special energy required for Yveltal, because to get 2 Yveltal attacks off requires at least 6 of those coloured energies. What other methods have been put in place to counter Duraludon VMAX?
So Duraludon VMAX is one of those Pokemon that sometimes just was an entire strategy. Lugia VMAX now tries to play Canceling Cologne. Canceling Cologne negates all the effects of abilities.
That was interesting because it came in because of the Aerodactyl, but then in the end it was like, oh, actually this works quite nice.
It works well against Miltank, works against Duraludon. It's just an extra, you know. It's a card that you can also just use, and sometimes it goes away, and that's fine. But obviously Duraludon wants to protect itself from this from the Yveltal, which it knows to be basically the gateway to victory for Lugia V-Star.
Is it able to get a full knockout here? So if it were,
could be.
if it did have,
so
we're talking about the hypotheticals here of what Luke could have included in his list, because we see right here that the Yveltal is the only way to get through this Duraludon, and it does have a counter to Big Parasol if Big Parasol comes out, but ultimately that Yveltal, once it's done, and that's the only way to knock out Duraludon VMAX. So if a second Duraludon VMAX sticks, Josh will just be able to wall out the rest of the game.
I think what happened here, did Lugia player may have overbenched here, so he cannot get 2 Arceus down. I think he played also Professor Research. I think the judge is just trying to suss it out, understand. Oh, there was a shuffling that was missed due to an effect.
Okay, you're very correct there about the overbenching, and that's one of the massive downsides of Pumpkaboo entry.
Yeah.
If you start with that,
lucky.
it really clogs up your bench.
Pumpkaboo is an amazing Pokemon. Like, it transforms your Ultra Ball and the Quick Ball in the late game that sometimes are pretty clunky. You already have your attackers out, and it becomes an out to pesky stadiums that you cannot really deal with.
Well, we'll see what the plan of action here is for Luke. I think just looking at the 2 lists in terms of what Luke is prepared for, this matchup is not one that he's particularly teched out for. So really does have to try and play on speed. And so that last turn from Josh is to recognize that 2 Duraludon VMAXs in play is the key to victory here.
Exactly. So I think actually what Luke wants here to happen, he knows that Joshua will need to somehow retreat, attack, set up his Duraludon. So maybe he's inviting his opponent to say, listen, I have this Pumpkaboo, how about you get rid of it for me? Because, once again, the Lugia at least does not have any way to pick up its Pokemon once they are in the bench, and at the same time does not have any switching effect.
Ooh.
And Pumpkaboo has that very ugly chew cost of retreat.
So just choosing to go for the one Archeops there with the Summoning Star, which is going to limit the ability to get Special Energy into play. It is going to be somewhat of a slower matchup because Duraludon hasn't got the energy in play just yet to be able to start attacking. But the walling prospect is scary right now, so fast acceleration is needed to get into this game for Luke.
Indeed. There's also one Aurora Energy very important in the prizes, so he needs to be very careful about what is discarded up to this point. Using the Lugia V-Star ability already means... I think there was already an attachment this time. I may be wrong.
I think it was a tool. Was it the Tool Jammer that was put on?
Oh, that was a Tool Jammer. Yes, that's fine.
I'm not quite sure.
So right now, ooh, look at that hand. Very ugly hand here by Luke. I think there's a Lugia V-Star and Chew Energy, so a bit blocked there. Joshua, however, has a Mani in his hand, which may be played this turn. Let's see, attachment onto the Arceus.
Yeah, we saw that Tool Jammer put down the Yveltal, so that's going to reveal to Josh for next game that is a strategy coming into it.
There's the Mani.
So the big Parasol is not redundant because it's important to ask that question if the Tool Jammer's not in play, but I think Luke has definitely revealed his master strategy here. Has to wait a turn with the Pumpkaboo in the active, and the Yveltal needs powering up over 2 turns now because of this single Archeops on the bench. So not the strongest Lugia V-Star game plan here, but like I said, he's revealed that Tool Jammer, so next game Josh is going to be able to play around it.
Yeah, so one interesting thing about Joshua's deck list, he only runs 2 methods of retreating. He has one switch and one escape rope, and that's it. This basically means that once the Duraludon is in the active spot with that free cost retreat, there's going to be some time involved between he's able to, and especially considering he already played an escape rope to like turn 2, there's going to be some time before that gets out of the active spot.
Yeah, and with Starbirth, typically the switch is one of the cards that you would take from that to guarantee getting the Arceus into the active spot. On this occasion, it's not as relevant, but you can see just this whole setup is very slow-paced game plan, but Josh just knows that there's not a huge amount that can be done, and
exactly.
Typically this is where you, as a walling deck, you just sort of ask the questions: is do you have the ability to get through multiple of these?
Right now, in terms of game plan, if Luke is able to knock out the Arceus and is able therefore to remove the only ready attacker for Joshua, this may be a very troublesome situation.
Very fair point.
Because if you go Yveltal, knock it out, you still put Yveltal in the active spot, which may cause you some troubles. But there it is.
There it is.
There it is. That's the Serena. As I mentioned, that he goes for the Arceus. He does have one copy of Rayan from Joshua's side, so that may be how he gets back into the game. But very, very tight spot here.
But even then, whichever Duraludon he starts trying to power up will be the target of the next potential gust effect. So Luke has found a solution. And the excitement from you there when you realised that was a possibility. I hadn't even thought about that. The Arceus being targeted now puts Josh in an awkward spot. No energy in play. They can wall out anything.
Chorus experiment this turn.
A Yveltal. So this Yveltal needs to stick and get both these Duraludon VMAX by the end of the game.
Yeah, I think Joshua play right now needs to be attached on the bench. Hopefully the opponent does not have a boss order. Luke plays only 2 copies of boss order, 1 Serena already being used, so just the 2 bosses left, not in the prizes.
There is a Temple of Sinnoh, that's an option.
Ooh,
so the Temple of Sinnoh, there is only 1 stadium in Luke's list, so if the Temple of Sinnoh sticks, that will make it even tougher for the Yveltal. And there it is, the Temple of Sinnoh goes down. So Josh answers back and says, I need a few more turns to set up, try and get through this. And it's probably going to be a pass shortly here now for Josh as he asks the question, can you deal with that, Luke?
Indeed, Temple of Sinnoh not only...
The collapsed stadium's in his hand.
Oh, noes. I think this might be a very tough spot for Joshua to get out of.
Because with the Pumpkaboo down, the only out there was the collapsed stadium. And it seems like the collapsed stadium is right there in Luke's hand.
Only 1 copy in Luke's deck, and he has it. Sometimes it's like that, but of course now the situation, it's not over. If he doesn't have a boss order, which I don't think he does in his end, Joshua, if he draws a Rayan, may still get back into the game. Because once again, once that Yveltal is knocked out, what are the answers in his deck? There's none.
There isn't, and that's that is the key right here. Luke needs to win this game with just this Yveltal. Otherwise, there is no other options available. And on the side of Josh, he needs to get rid of this Yveltal and knows that that is the final checkmate in this game. So a really interesting board state right here. We know that Collapse Stadium will be coming down to bump the Temple of Sinnoh so that Yveltal can continue to attack.
There's a Primal Wisdom, just trying to look at one more card. That's the swap. That's one Aurora energy right there. Let's see if he wants to go. Yes, I think he wants to go right away. One other play could have been retreat the active Yveltal, but that may have been... Oh, there we go. Pumpkaboo, bye-bye. Thank you very much for passing by, but we don't need you here.
So that knockout opens up the Raihan potential here. Does Josh have access to the Raihan to be able to accelerate energy, knock out the Yveltal, and start this comeback? So there's a single attachment.
I don't think it's there.
Does he have a
boss order?
Oh, so it's stall time.
Still a possibility.
But with the Archeops, there's going to be the ability to accelerate energy onto that Oranguru.
Indeed, and it's going to make sure that there's an energy in his deck because he's going to put it back with a Primate Wisdom. Activate Archeops. Other 2 energies. 1 and 2. All right.
There we go.
Seems like we're going to a game 2.
What a game there.
What a game there.
The board state looks so in favor of Josh for a short moment there, but that Serena came in so clutch to get the Arceus V-Star. And I mean, we missed the first turn attachment on the Arceus. That's pretty vital there, because if you can start accelerating those energy, we do not have this problem that we just mentioned.
Indeed.
It was crazy.
Indeed. The Duraludon deck is a deck that once it's set up, it's a very solid deck. But before then, if it's not able to, get both the Star Buff and the Trinity Nova at the same time, it's a deck that struggles. Somewhat fragile. But at the same time, what really made a difference there was that when Luke saw an opening, he went right in. He swooped in, he saw the opening, went for the Arceus, did not give him no quarter.
Well, that's the Lugia strategy against Arceus Duraludon. Can you knock out everything that's scary before it becomes a problem? And Yveltal is the main tool to get through Duraludons, but in this occasion, the Yveltal took everything off the board.
Exactly.
All 8 prizes with one single prize attacker, Yveltal coming in strong.
It's not very often you see a Pokemon that just reads, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out.
I mean, typically it's because of the energy cost being so awkward, but as we know, the acceleration of the Archeops is so good here in Lugia V-Star. There was a worry that Pumpkaboo blocking up the bench meant that there was
and it was troublesome at the beginning.
It was troublesome. There was a lack of space for the 2 Archeops, so it meant the acceleration had to be done over 2 turns. So there was definitely turns available to both players to get back into the game.
Indeed, the Temple of Sinnoh's well placement right there was correct. It was the right play right there. 5 cards in hand of the Lugia player, giving him few chances to find it, but he did have the single copy of Collapse Stadium that he does play. Also getting rid of the Pumpkaboo finally.
Yeah, it must be nice just to announce the same attack 3 turns in a row there.
And what a attack name. I want to announce Amazing Destruction, Amazing Destruction, and Amazing Destruction.
A beautiful card too. I love the Amazing Rares when they came out. But we will be seeing a game 2 here. Can Josh get a better start this time? Really, it was that single attachment onto Arceus, the bane of Arceus's whole career as a TCG card, has always been that first turn attachment. And I'm sure it wasn't any wrongdoing of Josh. It's just he didn't see the energy. There are 9 basic energy and 4 double turbo energy in the deck. So Josh will be hoping to find one of them in his first hand with an Arceus.
Exactly. And I think I want to give props to Luke to find that opportunity and just go for 1 Archeops. It was a play that I was tentative about, but once it came down, that single Archeops, it did all the job it needed to do. Waited a turn, attach 2 energies, then retreat the turn after with the Pumpkaboo, and was able to take the knockout, and so on, and sweep the game.
I mean, it was just a recognition that it was going to be a slower game plan from Josh. There wasn't the energy in play to do what he wanted. You mentioned about the switch outs, only the escape rope and the switch. Typically, a player at Luke's level will understand the likelihood of switch outs. So we probably saw that and went, no, it's probably unlikely that they can get themselves exactly what they want here. But we are going here into game 2 as we see a Duraludon V and a Lugia V in the opening star. And just looking at Luke's facial expression, we can only sort of see it through his eyes, but he is looking chuffed to bits right now. Yeah,
he has another Duraludon in his hand, a Chorus Experiment, Evolution Incense, I believe, and a Boss's Order and a DC. And a double turbo energy, sorry. So he's going to go for an Ultra Ball, probably going to look after the Arceus, so turn 2. Now it's a tough decision. Yeah, he decides to go for the other one. He does have Mustard still in his deck. There is. In fact, that's the card he just picked up to make sure that he's able to set up another Duraludon, because once again, he only runs a chew-free line of the Duraludon VMAX.
I mean, to discard the Duraludon V there, you could see why he was taking a moment there to check, because he didn't have a deck search yet. So he needed to check the Mustard was available after the discarding the card, which could potentially snooker him in the future. There was, so there's 2 Duraludon V in the deck, but 3 Duraludon V max. So by discarding the second Duraludon V, it does limit your options. But
and look at the order. And look at the order in which he looked at the card in his deck. First checked how many Duraludons do I have, how many are in the prizes. Then he checked for the cards for this matchup. So he checked how many big Parasol, how many Temple of Sinnoh do I have in this deck. And I think he noticed that one of the big Parasols is in the prizes, even in the top prize. So that may be the last one to be drawn.
Yeah, 2 big Parasol. But he does know about the Tool Jammer, so
Indeed.
He's probably not as worried about the big Parasol. I mean, if one Duraludon VMAX gets knocked out by Yveltal and you get rid of the Yveltal straight away afterwards, then it's not a problem. The big Parasol is not relevant anymore. But this occasion gets that first turn attachment, so we'll be a little bit happier.
I think here we're golden. Turn 1 double turbo energy onto the Arceus. Even if the Arceus does not evolve, but it does find a way to switch, he will still be able to attach some energies from the deck. And I think now it's up to Luke to prove himself to be at the height of this start by Joshua.
So just checking, there is a Yveltal in there, which is good. The most important card in this matchup for the Lugia. And also, nice little appreciation to the Arceus V artwork on the on the side there. We had the Hisuian face-off earlier.
Indeed.
And this artwork paying homage to the amazing game that was Legends Arceus. One of my favourite artworks I've seen in this V generation.
Indeed, I very much like the arts that that Josh is bringing. Also, the Duraludon alternate art there from the skyscraper really looks towering, really looks massive. And I think here Luke is taking a look at his deck, understanding how many Arceus does he have access to, how many energies. Look at that, he's piled them up all at the end of his deck just to make sure he's... that's something very useful. Sometimes when you're looking at your deck, you may get confused, it may be difficult to keep track of the cards, so just put them at the end, and then once you shuffle, everything is fine. You
have to give it a good little shuffle after that, though, and we'll see what cards in the hand. There's a lot of stuff that he doesn't want in this matchup in that first hand.
So a Raikou, so a Pumpkaboo, so a Manaphy. I think he may even go for a Luminion at this point. Oh, look at that. That's a lot of Pokemon. But he does have a Lugia V-Star. So he may need to consider whether he wants to go for, say, a Luminion, get a Professor Research, dump it all in, and find something else.
There is also a Quick Ball in that hand, so we'll be able to get both Archeops into the discard pile in this first turn. So the optimal first turn for Lugia, not really needing to worry about attachments, as you got so much access to attachments later on once those Archeops are in play.
Exactly.
Oh, actually, was that only one Archeops in the discard?
I think it was only one Archeops. I think he Ultra Balled for the Archeops and then discarded via Quick Ball. Okay. He's able to get that Oranguru. I would like to know if he would prefer to attach this. I think he has either a Capture or a Strong in his hand. He may want to put it at the top just to save it for later. Let's see what he wants to go for here. Just giving a little shuffle. The Luminion was grabbed in the end, I think. Yes, there he is. Does he want to go back in?
So the Oranguru, a great card in Lugia V-Star, one that Tord piloted in that first Lugia V-Star journey over in LAIC.
Which brought him all the way up.
Yeah, literally just the Oranguru was enough to make that deck that bit stronger. Great against Marnies, great at putting energy back into the deck so you can get them out with Archeops later. And on this occasion, another chance to look at a card as well. So having access to the Oranguru is a key factor here, almost like a must-have now.
Ooh, interesting choice here. He actually goes for a Marnie rather than a Professor Research.
Okay, well, we do know how tough it is to get your game plan working with Arceus Duraludon, so if you can do it in 5 cards, then that's pretty solid. So I think there was a Evolution Incense that Joshua was holding on to. I'm not 100% sure, but we all know that the Arceus V-Star access is so key in getting everything set up. So we'll see what this 5-card hand looks like for Josh.
That's another Evolution Instance from what I see. Another Arceus, Chorus Experiment, and a Marnie, I believe, from Joshua's hand. Instead from Luke. Oh, look at that. He's able to use, finally, we mentioned it before, he's going to use Luke's attack, read the wind, discard a card, and then draw 3 cards. But here we go. Joshua right away zaps that Evolution Instance into the battlefield. And now he's going to go look for no one else but Arceus V-Star.
Yeah, we'll be checking what they want to get with the V-Star ability and checking that hand, making sure everything is in order. As we mentioned, the game plans here for both sides. Lugia V-Star wants to get knockouts as soon as possible, get them done as quickly as possible. for the Arceus V-Star Duraludon VMAX deck, we need to see a Trinity Nova as soon as possible to try and get that energy in play. As we saw last turn, if the Yveltal is left to take knockouts when there's no return knockout, it will just steamroll through the whole deck.
So right now, Joshua is taking a moment before going ahead with that V-Star. He's probably just going to mine it first, see what he gets. Yes, indeed. There we go. Luke, I'm not sure what he had in his hand. He's going to go at the bottom. Looks at the camera. Hi, Luke. I hope you're doing well. 5 cards. Let's see what is in here. Oh, I think that's a switch. So one less card that's going to be tutored with that Starbirth.
Yeah, and the energy. So I probably could even hold on to the Starbirth. Maybe just to get the VMAX might be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a possibility. 280 HP on Arceus V-Star is actually a pretty tough number to reach for the Lugia's deck right away. He will need to commit one of his big attackers. And, of course, you can get there with the powerful energies. They're not really needed in this matchup. But it's also awkward for the prize race. 2 prizes, then 3 prizes with the Duraludon VMAX, and then you need to get the last prize.
Yeah, you can see the VMAX was always going to be the choice here. It's the only piece needed now to set up the Duraludon VMAX, but you also got to think that Starbirth is a great way to guarantee a mustard hand. You could get a mustard and the card needed, whether it be an Ultra Ball, a Quick Ball, or whatever it is to try and thin the hand into a mustardable hand.
Well, a mustardable hand, indeed. Mustard is a very interesting supporter. We haven't seen it as much as you mentioned, but it really, like game 1, it helped him set up one more Duraludon. Didn't really help in the end, but in this situation where he is ahead and he's also, look at that, he already put some damage on the Lugia. So the Lugia, whatever next attacker is going to receive, is going to get knocked out. So now Luke has a decision. Do I charge this Lugia and try to take the knockout on this Arceus, or do I go slow? And in fact, I think Josh already thought about this. He grabbed a boss's order of the Starbirth.
Perfect. I don't know if this is just me, and you guys in chat can let me know, and you can let me know too. Whenever I see a mustard played, I just imagine Andrew Mahone giggling aggressively over the idea of putting a Beedrill in play and getting an instant knockout. So that's how I think of mustard whenever I see it, and I can imagine that's what's going through Josh's head when he plays it. Probably more internally giggling, not quite as expressive as Andrew Mahone.
If you giggle your opponent's face like that, I don't know if they will take it.
I don't know if you can describe Andrew Mahone's demonic laugh when he's managed to suss you out as giggling. But let's see what's going to happen here for Luke with the Lugia V-Star.
Primal Wisdom. Oh, a bit of a tough choice here. I think he will be forced to discard the Pumpkaboo. Now it would be a good time to keep the Pumpkaboo because it was not in your starting hand. But I think for Forza Maggiore, he will need to get the Lugia V-Star this turn.
Okay, so setting up Yveltal is the key. Can you get what you need? And knowing that Duraludon was discarded early on, it forces the mustard route for the second Duraludon VMAX. It's a common setup to have a 2-3 line with that Duraludon, so Luke, as a top player, will understand that's what he's up against. We'll look to get the Yveltal knockout on the Duraludon VMAX this time, where last time it was to get rid of the Arceus for the energy. So there's a lot of clever routes here for Luke to get this win, and now we're going to see whether it's possible off the back of these Archeops.
Indeed, the Prima Turbo going on right now, attaching. I think he's going for the route of the powerful energy that I described before. He has none in his prizes, so he has access to all of them. He just needs 280 damage for the Arceus.
Perfect.
And once again here, I think one of the biggest, I would argue, the biggest strength of the Duraludon deck is being able to force a very awkward price trade. In the moment that you go 2 prizes, 3 prizes, and then 3 more prizes because I have 1 more Duraludon VMAX, it's going to be very tough. And you have plenty of time to set it up, because once you have 1 Duraludon hitting every turn, 200 damage, 200 damage, 200 damage, 220 actually, it's going to be very tough for the opponent to also target your bench.
It's very optimal before you research to get rid of as many energy as possible from the next hand by putting them into play. So by putting those powerful colors into play, it reduces the likelihood of drawing into special energy, so it makes your next draw better. So going Lugia on Arceus first, and then knowing that Yveltal's in the back pocket ready to Not literally, that would be concerning. But
We'll call a judge if that was the
yeah,
case.
get the Yveltal out next turn for that Duraludon.
Tempest Dive for 280, taking the knockout on Axis Vista. Taking prizes, always good. 2 cards more added to your hand.
Yes, there we go. I was
There's
about
the
to say
boss.
we need to start getting rid of those Archeops because that's going to slow down the powering up of Yveltal,
Indeed.
where that Lugia is no threat right now to Duraludon VMAX.
Exactly. Now Luke has no chance whatsoever to set up out of nowhere the Yveltal. This cuts him off from his biggest win con, basically. And now Joshua just says, listen, I have this guy. Would you like to deal with him?
A very clever route here. You know, Josh was speaking earlier in the interview about how comfortable this deck is feeling, but how little practice he's had with it. Very, very clearly knows what the route here to victory is.
Exactly.
Yveltal's scary prospect, but if it can't be powered up, then it's going to sit on the bench for a turn. If you've got the boss's orders when it's sat on the bench, that's your chance to get that checkmate.
I'm pretty sure Luke this turn may just need to try to set up something because that Duraludon is untouchable at the moment. Skyscraper just walling off those special energies. Now the Lugia is a liability at the same time. It does not help with the price trade. But I'm pretty sure Luke has all the time to get back into this game.
I guess the question is, what's the strategy to get Yveltal to stick? Is it something like a Marnie plus power up?
Because right now he just played a boss on Joshua. You need to think, actually I should mention that Joshua plays 4 bosses order. Obviously Luke doesn't know this, but Duraludon
and 3 Pokegear as well.
3 Pokegears as well. So like if you Marnie him, you're gonna end up in a situation where he may draw into it. He already just played once, so you gotta think about statistics, look at his discard pile, maybe try to read him. It's always difficult to read the opponent, especially if you don't know him. But there we go. He's just gonna attach some energies to the Yveltal. Interesting enough, he attached only 1 with the Archeop's ability. That was because he has Chew in his hand.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Oh, I would like to correct myself. It's actually attached Chew with the Primal Turbo, and he has Chew left in his hand.
So he'll probably attach one of those from hand now, just to mean that it doesn't require twin energy if, say, the other... I don't know. I mean, he just wants to get it powered up as soon as possible.
I think it needs to go.
He just wants to power up ASAP, and then also the Marnie is going to be the play. That's all you can do now is Marnie and hope.
Yeah, Marnie and pray. Let loose and pray. Very reminiscent of that.
That look Josh just gave of like, if you win this, if you get this with the Marnie.
Let's take a peep, Joshua. What do you have in that beautiful hand of yours?
Oh, he doesn't want to show us.
I saw a Hyper Potion. That's not very helpful. But no, he's keeping them very straight. Not able to see from there. He's just leaving, I believe, that Luminion there for fodder. Once again, this matchup is going to be, I think, is going to be decided in the next turn.
Yeah, I love this in Pokemon when you've got that sort of checkmate scenario and you're just sort of waiting to see what's going to happen. You know, Tool Jammer's there, so I mean, it's irrelevant at this point because, I mean, the big Parasol could come out and that would potentially
look at
make
that
it
draw.
harder.
Ooh, very ugly hand
oh
here.
Dear.
Escape rope energy,
no.
and he just bonks it.
That's an acceptance right there.
And we know for sure that there's 2 Aurora energies in the deck because he just put them at the bottom with money. So, yep, I believe we're going to see a Primal Turbo attaching 2 energies.
Yeah, there we go.
There it is. The hand is extended. And Luke is granted to get into Day 2. It's going to be one of the first people here at Liverpool that is going to be granted Day 2. Once again, to get into Day 2, you need 19 points. He's currently at 18. So if he wants, he goes to the next table, to the next game, and say, hello, opponent, would you like to tie? And he is granted into Day 2.
Yeah, the intentional draw, a great way to guarantee it. And then there'll still be more rounds after that to try and win because it's all about getting as far ahead as possible so that when you go into Day 2 in that Swiss, you've got as much opportunity. So well done, Luke Fisher. I mean, it's a very solid Lugia list. It does everything you want it to do.
Exactly.
Some interesting counts in there. I think the Tool Jammer is definitely the interesting spice that Luke's bringing forward for that big Parasol. But ultimately, the list has all of the pieces you need to make Lugia V-Star work.
Exactly. Sometimes Tool Jammer can even be useful in other matchups. Sometimes Choice Belt is one of the most played cards in this format, I would say. And sometimes it's needed to take that knockout on the Lugia. It's one boost that is needed. Maybe Mew needs it. Maybe a Mirror needs it. And you just go Tool Jammer and ask one more question of your opponent. Oh,
yeah. The questions were being asked very much in that game.
Very much so.
And unfortunately, Josh did not have the answers in those. So we'll be taking his first loss, 5-1 now. and we'll see where he ends up later on.
Still has 3 rounds to get into day 2, just 1 win, and he's granted basically to go into day 2.
Yeah, but some spice in that list. I like some of the additions, and the way he was playing it was correct. It was just unfortunate that the deck doesn't draw as well as other decks.
Indeed. Yeah, well, as I mentioned, it's a very static deck. I like the inclusion of 4 Colors Experiment and 4 Bosses Order. It really goes into the spirit of the deck. Colors Experiment gives you extra advantage, and sometimes removes you even cards you don't want to see. Because once again, sometimes you get Moneyed, sometimes you need to shuffle your cards back into you get Roxanne, whatever. So being able to generate that card advantage and at the same time removing cards is very good. And 4 Bosses Order just means you can't hide from me. I'm going to deal 220, you're going to retreat, I want that Pokemon back, thank you. Because the Duraludon, as the game goes on, the more chance you give your opponent to come back into the game.
Indeed, and well played by both players. We'll be seeing maybe more Duraludon later on, but that was a chat-requested game. Whoever was requesting it, I don't know whether you wanted to see Duraludon win or lose, but unfortunately, Duraludon did not work that game. Being 5-0 at this stage, you know that deck has worked. You know that it is a consistent, solid deck. It often checkmates players, especially with how much Reggie is about.
Yeah, Lugia itself sometimes does not have the answer. We saw already in stream, we featured someone that didn't run any canceling Cologne or Tool Jammers.
Exactly.
It's a deck that you always need to be mindful of. In the moment you forget about Duraludon, you're just becoming a prey for it.
Yeah, big Parasol, great in the matchups where there is no Tool Jammer or canceling Cologne for the big hit knockouts. And I think it's fair to say when your opponent techs well, games just don't go your way sometimes. And on this occasion, the tech was just right for this matchup. But I'm sure this Lugia V-Star matchup might struggle in some other ones because there are some gaps in the setup here I'm concerned about. I mean, the Aerodactyl that did so well.
Exactly. We haven't still featured any vehicle. We hope to be featuring it at some point today if there's any that is doing good.
Vikavolt.
It's Vikavolt. It's Vikavolt. You go to Twitter if you want to.
We had a poll on it.
Yeah,
15% of people
is
were
winning.
correct.
I'm just saying.
You know,
just
the correct way was 15% of you guys. So it's on you really at this point. I mean, we constantly mispronounce names. It's tough. There's a lot of Pokemon out there now, over 1,000. But one thing I want to know is for you, which deck other than Vikavolt are you excited to see for the rest of the day? Because we've seen pretty much everything.
We haven't seen Eternatus Weezing. We haven't seen, if there's anybody out there that is playing Durant today, I'd love you. I would love you to have you on stream. Please do well. But I will settle very happily for Eternatus Weezing. Very interesting deck. I think a very good meta call for this game, as we've seen lots and lots of Lost Box, lots and lots of Lugias. Therefore, please do well.
I mean, imagine if there's a Dialga V-Star out there doing well. Have you seen the new Ho-Oh build? The one where, I mean, outrageous. It's definitely one for the YouTubers where they can edit out the games where it doesn't work. But it's a fun deck nonetheless. And
that's how thing works.
I don't think it's going to be on the top tables here. I'm just saying it that way. But you know, there's a lot of potential going into the next format for Metal to come back and have a bit more success. Exactly. But for now, I think we're going to have to just take a little bit of a break. Pause for you guys. Take a deep breath. And we'll come back for round 7 in just a little while.
One of the strongest one-prize decks in this format is Reggie's, capable of tanking hits and doing some massive damage. Let me walk you through it. Regigigas is the heart and soul of the Reggie's deck, a big basic Pokemon with 150 HP from Astral Radiant. Its attack, Gigaton Break, for 5 energy does 150 damage plus 150 more if it's sitting into your opponent's VMAX. However, 5 energy is extremely costly, so how are we going to get the energies into play? Regigigas' ability is really good for that. Ancient Wisdom allows you to get 3 special energies from your discard pile and attach them to your Reggies in any way you like, provided you have each of them in play. Aurora Energy is the main one we will be accelerating here. Since we can accelerate Aurora Energy, this means we can attack with Regirock, Reg Ice and Registeel all at the same time, hitting for many different weaknesses. Regieleki is extremely good in this format as it can one-shot Lugia V-Star and Palkia all on a one-prize Pokemon. Regi players also opt to play a high count of Path to the Peak. This will slow down many of the top decks in format, giving you time to set up and win the game. Reggie's is extremely fast, really consistent and can hit hard, and I expect it to do really well at this event.
I hope you had a good breath as you took a little break, but we are back with an interview here with Luke, and Luke has just come out victorious. You're now 6-0.
Yeah.
So I assume ID, and then you make day 2.
Well, no, that's not the plan. I'm going to try and win out.
Oh, you're going for the old 9-0?
Yeah, because there's going to be quite a few people in day 2 anyway, so you want to get your best shot to get top 8 regardless. So
oh, good stuff.
Yeah, taking an ID is probably just 2 points lost ultimately. So
that's a winner's mentality right there, Luke.
Right.
So you're here from the UK. You're in a UK regional.
Yep.
I assume this is the one where most people from your communities and everything have come along to be able to get to it.
Yeah.
How many people are there here from your kind of local community?
Local community. Well, there's a few communities I'm part of and stuff, so there's at least like 15, 16 of us. Yeah, there's a lot of us. Yeah.
I've seen so many people walking around in massive groups as everyone's enjoying themselves. You travel all around Europe for events. How many events have you been to this season?
This season I went to Lille the end of last year. That's it, really. Yeah.
Oh, really? So you've not been able to make it out to many other events?
No. I've got a baby on the way soon, so saving money for that.
Yeah, you got bigger priorities.
Absolutely.
But you made your way over here, and you're now 6-0, and you're piloting the Lugia V-Star deck. We saw the Tool Jammer in there.
Yep.
I assume that was specifically for that big parasol that you'd be coming up against.
Big parasol, but it offers a lot more in different matchups. Shout out to like Joe from Mommy Poke is literally the one who's just like, I watched a video that he posted a couple of months ago with Tool Jammer, and I was like, it kind of makes sense because you turn off choice belt, because I played against a Reggie, so you turn off a choice belt in the Reggie matchup, so the Reggie Lecky doesn't one-shot your Lugias. And then also it's really, really good against Lost Box, because if they try and respond on the Stoutland, you Tool Jammer them, and they can't respond on the Stoutland because their idea is to go Snorlax choice belt. They can't respond, you take another 2 prizes, you win that, and it's really awkward when you can obviously turn off their Zero with the choice belt, etc. So, and it's been really good in the mirror as well. Just generally, they've had to have Valtor me to KO because they can't respond KO with a Lugia V-Star. So it's
a very versatile answer to many decks in the format.
Absolutely, it's been really good, to be fair.
Yeah, that's
glad
great.
I put it in.
Yeah, I mean it came in clutch there as an answer to a question that was coming from the big parasol. Thankfully for you drew very well this game, and
decent,
you obviously been drawing pretty well today. If you've gone 6-0.
Yeah, absolutely. I've dead drew every time.
You've been bricking, but they've been bricking harder.
Yeah.
But you're hoping to go on to day 2, make that top 8, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Is your intention? You mentioned you've been to a few events with Pokemon. What's your sort of like reason for playing? Is it just you enjoy it? Are you planning to go to Worlds? What's your sort of like?
Oh, I absolutely love the game.
Just love the game.
Love the game. Win lose. Well, it does matter because I'm very competitive, so I obviously like winning. But win lose, enjoy the game regardless. And obviously I've not been to many events this season. I got day 2 in Lille with the Zora V-Star. Shout out to Zora V-Star. Wish I was playing that today, but unfortunately it's not that good.
We saw it on stream earlier. It was not having the best time.
Was it on stream, was it?
Yeah,
I didn't see.
It was a shame. There was a Manaphy draw pass in game 2, so not had the best time. But we mentioned about how like everyone has different experiences with Pokemon. There's some people here who they go to every single event, even travel to other regions to try and get as many points as possible. For you, you've got your family, you've got this whole idea of you just love Pokemon. When did you start out with Pokemon?
I started about 7 years ago.
7 years?
Yeah, just it was around about the Sun and Moon base era. Fell in love with the competitive side of it. Played Zora GX for the longest time. After it retired, I didn't know what to do. But now I found another deck that I actually quite enjoy. So
that's good.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the journey for everyone is
it's very different, isn't it?
It's very different, and like what decks you sort of cling on to. I was a Mewtwo, a Mew player.
No, you want one of those?
I was. Yeah. No. Have I gone down now?
A little bit.
I'm sorry. I'll try and fix that by like I now play rogue decks.
So
I'm
yeah,
one of
respect
those
that. Yeah, absolutely.
I've given up my meta days. And anyway, so you're playing B-Diff. Let's be honest.
It is. Yeah.
Best deck in format, Lugia.
Absolutely.
There's the various different ideas people have got going on. There's been the cancelling cologne. Some people sneaking that one in.
Yeah.
You got your Tool Jammer. That's your spice. Do you think the Tool Jammer angle is the strongest of the sort of idea, the countering what's been in the meta ideas?
The idea for Tool Jammer mainly is to target the top 3. So you target. The cancelling cologne is obviously for that rogue stuff, right? And I wanted just to target the top 3. I wanted to beat Lost Box, I wanted to beat Mew, and I wanted to beat the Mirror. Obviously, Tool Jammer doesn't offer too much in that matchups, but the Cancelling Clown offers less.
Yeah,
and the Cancelling Clown the only play you've really got is like Boss Manaphy, and then take 2 prizes with the Raikou, but that very rarely ever comes off.
Yeah, I guess you could
I don't
try
really
and reach for the Duraludon VMAX if you turned off that ability.
You've got to turn it off twice though, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then or you've got to reach for it and you've got to commit so much. Honestly, there's just so much goes into the clone. You got to find it at the right time because I know some people are playing Skylar for it, and it's just an awful
Ooh,
card. Like,
I mean, you're calling out Tord right there.
is he playing? Is he playing
Yeah, he's
Skylar?
been streaming it all week.
Has he?
I saw
Okay,
him
I've
streaming
not
it all
seen
week.
that.
I mean,
It's just such a bad card, though, isn't it? Playing Skylar.
it's just it feels very inefficient with how powerful cards are these days. To
Yeah.
just have one trainer search.
Search one trainer or draw 7 research. I know what I'd rather do.
Yeah. Well, you clearly are having a great time here at this
Yeah, it's
event. I
good.
won't keep you too long because I'm sure you want to go and chat with your mates and start thinking about the next round as well. As you've got
Yeah.
that 9-0 mindset right now.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone you want to shout out? You mentioned Joe earlier for the idea of the card, but anyone else you want to shout out?
Yeah, shout out my Mrs. Amy. She was watching my
Do
stream.
you know what? If you didn't say that, I was going to call you out on it. You went straight to it. I'm like so
No,
thankful for
you
that.
got to mention her first. She was cheering me on. She's fortunately just dropped the round before. But yeah, she says like she's going to cheer me on for the rest of it.
That's
and then
good,
shout
that's
out
good.
to my best mate John as well, who's always come to the events, and Jake for testing. So yeah, and then shout out to the rest of the lot. Too many people to name, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Are we good to go? I mean, I'm having a great time here. Me and Luke are having a great chat.
We
But
can still talk off stream.
But I think we'll have a little chat off stream. We'll give you a bit of a break, and we'll give you guys at home a little bit of a break. So we'll see you in just a bit. We'll be joining round 7.